Center. Ice Trae is on the move. Trae Young has been traded to the Wizards for CJ McCollum. Corey Kispert, sources told ESPN. Young set out the Hawks game tonight against the Pelicans. During the game, he was dapping up friends, waving to fans, four-time All-Star. Young has been the face of the franchise in his 7+ seasons in the ATL. We bring in Shams Charania for more on this. Huge news, though not entirely unexpected. So, Shams, what more can you tell us about how this move went down?
Ryan, the Wizards believe they're taking a low-risk swing at a player that's shown prowess throughout the NBA. They believe that Trae Young can be the anchor for this young, burgeoning, talented team in the nation's capital. And we've seen the Wizards have been in a rebuild over the last few years, but now they're going to have Trae Young as a young star, as now the face of their young rebuild. And they're also going to have $46 million in cap space in the summer to add to talent around Trae Young. And so how did this even get to this point where Trae Young is on the move and wanting to go to a place like the Wizards? He is extension eligible, and so securing where that future stands became paramount for him, especially after the offseason when the Atlanta Hawks declined to offer an extension. So he will have a $49 million player option in the offseason. We'll see what happens there for an extension, but he will state his case for a long-term future now with the Wizards.
Washington was looking for that big name to bring in with that young team. Now they got Trae. So it's a big chip move for the Hawks. Is Atlanta gearing up for another move?
Ryan, this trade now sets up the Hawks with additional financial flexibility to go out and swing for a high-priced, big salary player, potentially, namely, Dallas Mavericks star Anthony Davis. The Hawks will pursue Davis the second half of the season ahead of the February trade deadline. The Mavericks will talk to several teams, but the Hawks have been at the forefront of interested parties, along with the Toronto Raptors, for the perennial all-star big man. But in the immediate future, the Hawks are turning their core over to Jalen Johnson and other players such as Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels. And they believe CJ McCollum also fits as a plug-and-play player, a floor spacer, and then you also have Corey Kispert as a sharpshooter on the wing.
They got a lot of pieces there in Atlanta. We'll see if they can build on that, maybe add an AD, someone like that. Atlanta could be on the move. All right, Shams, at the very latest on Trae Young, no longer a Hawk, now a Wizard. Thanks, Shams.
All right, now this was the team that Big Perk saw as a phenomenal fit for the four-time All-Star Trae Young. He joins us now on SportsCenter. So outside of I told y'all, Perk, what's your reaction to the move?
Hey, look, listen. Let me say this. Trae Young jersey is going to be in the Raptors when you think about what he has done in Atlanta. We're talking about a guy over his career that averaged 25 and 11. Now, with that being said, the Hawks made the right move. They got a young up-and-coming star in Jalen Johnson, who is now their franchise player, who is going to be the face of their franchise for a long time. But make no mistake about it, Trae Young in the Washington Wizards uniform, scratching the surface of his prime, he's going to do wonders. He's going to put butts in seats. He's going to put up numbers. He's going to have the keys to the vehicle, and he's going to make people around him better. And if I'm Trae Young, I actually walk into Washington with a chip on my shoulder. The simple fact that Washington got him without having to give up any draft picks, I would take that as a sign of disrespect. I think Trae Young is going to go out there and do well. I can't wait to see him, and I also can't wait to see the new-look Hawks when you talk about Jalen Johnson leading the charge.
No question. I covered the Hawks for about 4 years down there in Atlanta, and every night that Trae Young suited up, you could guarantee it was an event. Thankful for his time down there. Perk, thankful for you, but don't go nowhere. Got to holler at you about some actual hoops here in just a moment. But more on Trae Young. There's no doubt that Trae is one of the best creators the league has ever seen. He scored or assisted on over 48 points per game in his career. That's the second highest average in NBA history, behind, of course, Luka Doncic, who he was traded with on draft night. Young's first game against his former squad will be in Atlanta on February 24th.
News. Shams reported before this Lakers-Spurs game that Trae Young is being traded to the Washington Wizards. And right here, you see the moment where he found out and he's saying goodbye to his teammates with less than a minute left of tonight's Hawks game, saying his goodbyes after 8 years with Atlanta. So for more here, we say hello to our Shams Charania. Shams, I want to start here. Can you just give us some details on how this deal came together to send Trae Young to the Washington Wizards?
Malika, Trae Young wanted to be a Washington Wizard. He believes he can be a young anchor of this Washington Wizards rebuild. This has clearly been a team that's been drafting high. They're trying to figure out how to take the next step. And Wizards officials believe that Trae Young is that next step in their vision long term. And they want to build with Trae Young. And this is a team that's filled with young players, talented young players. They're going to have $46 million in cap space. And so Trae Young being that piece, and then CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert end up in Atlanta. But how does this end with Trae Young and his era over with the Hawks? And it's because it started in the offseason when the Hawks decided not to offer a contract extension to Trae Young. He has this season and next year, $49 million player option. They decided not to give him a contract extension offer. And now Trae Young is going to make his case for a long-term future with the Wizards.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that there's going to be some sort of extension coming down the pipeline here for Trae Young and the Washington Wizards. But on the Atlanta side of all of this, of course, they get Corey Kispert, as you mentioned, and CJ McCollum. Are they done making moves before the trade deadline?
Look at this Trae Young deal sets the Atlanta Hawks with additional financial flexibility to be active on the trade front to land another big name player, another major salary, and that being Anthony Davis in season. They're going to pursue Anthony Davis as a prime trade target with the Mavericks, but allowing this pursuit of Anthony Davis is really made possible because you get rid of this salary of Trae Young moving forward. And this is a Hawks team that's now going to turn the page with their young core led by Jalen Johnson and bring in CJ McCollum immediately, a plug-and-play veteran that can space the floor. Corey Kispert, a sharpshooter. So the Hawks are now moving toward figuring out, is there a big salary player that can bring in potentially Anthony Davis?
Okay, very interesting. That's certainly something.
The Hawks have traded Trae Young to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. That's according to multiple reports. A four-time All-Star, Young has been the face of the Hawks since he was drafted in 2018. He led Atlanta to 3 postseason appearances, including a run to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021. But now, Atlanta is moving in another direction, and Young gets a chance at a fresh start in D.C. For more, I'm joined by CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. John, this trade has been kind of percolating for a while now, but what's your general reaction?
Yeah, it has been percolating for a while, right? And at some point, the Atlanta Hawks looked around and went, it's been fun, Trae Young, but we're going to have to move on from you. And we really got an indication of that, Madeline, this offseason when they had an opportunity to extend Trae Young. He definitely wanted a contract extension. And the new front office led by Ansi Saleh, who's a really smart guy, they put together a group and they went, we'd rather not pay you. And that's really when the writing was on the wall that it was time for him to move on. This has been Jalen Johnson's team for a while. Casual NBA fans are starting to get clued into him. He's going to be an all-star this year. He's playing at an all-NBA caliber level. And they just decided that, like, they really can't move forward with Trae Young anymore. They're not a good defensive team in general, Madeline. They're just 16th, middle of the pack in defensive rating. They're a horrendous defensive team when Trae Young is out there. He's still a good passer. He's still a really good scorer, although inefficient, but he really brings their level down on the whole. Just 17-21 this year, 10th in the East. They're only 2-8. He's only played 10 games this year. And so finally they were looking around. This wasn't a huge market for Trae Young, but they finally found a taker in the Washington Wizards who were willing to say, okay, we'll bring him in. We'll kick the tires. He's got a player option at $48.9 million next year. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll go from there.
It's incredible to see how much Trae Young's star has fallen, though. I mean, again, early round draft pick in 2018, Ice Trae wreaking havoc in the association, one of just 3 players in NBA history to have career averages of 25 or more points and 8 or more assists. But you know, John, you've talked about plenty of times in the past how much better the Hawks have looked without Young on the floor. So now that they've made this change, what is next for this Atlanta franchise moving forward now that they've got increased financial flexibility and building around their young core?
Yeah, that financial flexibility is important in that young core that you just mentioned. So I mentioned Jalen Johnson. It's his team. It's been his team, but this officially signals it. Then beyond that, you've got Dyson Daniels. They just brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker from the Minnesota Timberwolves as a free agent, big free agent signing over the offseason. So they've got that nice young core, Onyeka Okongwu as well, Zachary Risache. They've got some nice pieces, but as you noted, by clearing him off the books, now you bring in CJ McCollum. He's on an expiring contract. They might end up rerouting him. The hot rumor has really been Anthony Davis. Could the Hawks lay their hands on Anthony Davis? Would the Dallas Mavericks be willing to move on from him? Now, previous general manager with the Mavericks, Nico Harrison wanted to see what would happen with Cooper Flagg, with Kyrie Irving, who's expected back shortly from an ACL injury, and then Anthony Davis. But this rumor has just been sort of bubbling up to the surface about whether or not the Hawks might be able to snag him away and steal him from the Mavs. So we'll see. Keep an eye on that, because clearly Anse Soleil, the general manager for the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Hawks have designs on something else here, right? They clear Trae Young off the books. Now we'll see what else happens, because they're just barely clinging to that last play-in spot in the Eastern Conference, and I think they have designs on something a little bit better than that.
Yeah, now as this news breaks, it's hard not to notice the social media reaction to the surprisingly low asking price for a 4-time NBA All-Star. Are you surprised with what it took to get this deal done?
Not really, because when you look around at the market, there wasn't much of one, right? The market was a lot of people speculating that, hey, maybe the Kings will jump on this, because the Kings tend to do pretty foolish things. They're already backcourt heavy. The Kings have thrown a lot of darts at the wall, and almost none of them have stuck over the years. And so when all of a sudden the Kings have identified you as a potential landing spot, then you know that things have fallen pretty far. Yes, he did make several All-Star games in the past. He's only made one third-team All-NBA. He's 27 years old, and